the town hall. Sorry, we are. Oh, y'all can hear me, right? I'm part of the church in North Oakland, and so I always have to project, and also I used to act. But in any case, I want to welcome you to Evergreen Missionary Baptist Church, and to give you a warm welcome, we have the presiding. He says he's pastor of Evergreen. I was like, he's important. Look at that too. Get all sharp. But he's going to give you a little bit of a welcome, and then we're going to introduce Councilmember Clyde.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. What joy it is to have you. I greet you in divine love. It's just a pleasure that you're here today to meet and greet many of you for the very, very first time. Welcome to Evergreen, and I really appreciate you. And you're always invited to come worship with us to experience the Evergreen experience. And we're a church of love and community oriented. I'm returning home from Oakland. I was born and raised here in Oakland with the Sacred Heart, St. Mary's High School, and joined the military, the greatest military, United States Air Force, the greatest branch. And I would have some Army friends who beg to differ. But I left 38 years ago, and here I am, returned home, called Evergreen in July, and began in September, the first Sunday in September, this great ministry. And I believe in community. Community is very important. I've been very involved in community for more than 40 years. And I believe in community, and that Evergreen is a church without walls. So when I received the call to have this or to host this town hall, it was a no-brainer for me. And I am grateful for this lady whom I met and had time to visit with, who is a jewel in our community, and keeping up with her and watching her. And she's a true activist, and she's really about all people. And that's so important to me, that she's just not a politician, but she's a public servant. Because there's a lot of politicians who are just that, politicians, but she's a public servant. And I'm grateful to team up with her and do my part to help elevate Oakland, because I'm proud of my home. I'm proud of Oakland, and we are better together, and I stand on that. So again, welcome to Evergreen, and thank you so much, Councilwoman. It's a joy to have
you. I'm telling you, the bishop will take you to church and don't even mean to. So thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for opening up your space. No words could be truer that I am here to serve. And oftentimes when you come in the spirit of service and don't have this history of being a politician, things can be challenging, but you all showing up here today is exactly what we need to build the district and the city that we want to see. And so part of that is in partnership with organizations like this church. Several of you here are representative of different organizations, and we need each and every one of you. Not just that, we need each and every single one of you to get another person and another person so that we can weave all of this together, because we are experiencing some of the most challenging times in Oakland's history, period. And I will say this, even if someone else is telling you something different, I didn't create it. But I do believe, and I can say emphatically that I'm going to give it 110% to do something to turn this thing around. I promise you. I am a fighter, and I fight for something bigger than me. That's why I'm in this seat. I didn't come here because I wanted to seek political office, but now that I'm here and I'm saying some things I won't even tell you all, because like I said, we're experiencing challenging times. is a grassroots organizing effort that is helping volunteer today. They're always supportive of everything that I do. A lot of folks that are part of Care for Community, you've been door knocking every single week since 2020 to make sure residents in the district have access to what's going on at City Hall and that are communicating back to me what neighbors are saying. So the work that they do is critical. If you don't know about C4C, definitely check them out on social media. Care for Community, get involved. And yes, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Bradley Johnson from our finance department.
Thank you, Councilmember Butt. Thank you, District 3 community. Thanks for inviting me to discuss the 23-25 budget. I want to acknowledge the Councilmember staff for making this happen, the church we're at for hosting us, and all the different departments and department staff that would need to create this proposed budget. Walter, next slide, please. We're going to get into the details of the budget in a moment, and before I sort of launch into that, I'll give you some background information. But I do want to make sure it's important to re-emphasize what Councilmember Fife said. Over the course of this budget cycle, we are facing the largest deficit in the history of the city, over $365 million in the general purpose fund. This is more than twice as large as we faced during the Great Recession. And so I want to make the point that both the mayor and the council have very difficult choices ahead of them. And so we're here to provide budget the city operates on fiscal year July 1st and ends on the 30th of June. So when we're talking about budget years, you have to think July 1 is your start, June 30th is your finish. We don't operate on a calendar year. The city does a biennial budget process. That means every 2 years we do a 2-year budget plan. In the second year of that 2-year budget, we'll do a smaller tweaking plan. We refer to these sort of colloquially as the big budget and the baby budget. This is a big budget year, so we're working on a 2-year plan for the coming biennial cycle. Next slide. Through the budget process, the mayor and council are required to propose, which the mayor has done, and the council is required to adopt a balanced budget. What do I mean by that? In a balanced budget, our revenues, what we're expecting to take in, must be greater than or equal to our expenditures, what we project to spend over that period. Many of you have heard right now about the same thing happening in Washington, D.C. about whether or not the federal government can raise its debt limit. That is a result of the fact that the federal government can have expenditures in excess of its revenues. We as local and state governments cannot do that. We must balance our budgets on an annual basis. We do not have the ability to deficit finance the way the federal government does. As I mentioned earlier, during this final period, the mayor and council are facing the largest deficit in the history of the city of Oakland. So I'm going to walk through that budget at a high level. Next slide, please. As we jump in, it's important to understand that the city of Oakland is not the only local government that serves residents of Oakland. Oakland residents are also served by Oakland County, the Oakland Unified School District, Park, AC Transit, East Bay Light, etc. We are also not the only recipient of Oaklanders' tax revenues. So good charities and property tax and other tax resources flow to these other entities that also provide services. This distinction is super important because many of the key services that our residents need are not actually provided by the city, but provided by other levels of government. Public schools, public transportation, courts, social services, anti-poverty programs. All these are primarily jurisdiction that never in the local government. And it's important to keep that in mind. Often some more issues that come up are due to our ability or failure to partner with those other institutions and their ability to meet their citizens. Next slide, please. Speaking of revenues, the city of Oakland's primary source of revenues are taxes. We also receive money from service charges, grants, bonds, etc. But the largest source of our city resources are taxes. And in the state of California, that means something very particular that's not necessarily true in every state across the country. In the state of California, we cannot raise the rate of grant taxation without a vote of the electorate. It requires a ballot measure to be put forward at an election in order to raise the rate of taxation. The upshot of that is Mr. Mayor and Council do not on their own have the ability to, as a budget balance solution, increase revenues. It's not something that's on the table for them to do. So as we go into a projected deficit and projected cycle, we effectively do the state law, tie the time on back. They can only really look to increase it at that expenditure side. Next slide, please. Speaking of expenditures, the primary thing we spend city resources on are our staff, our people. These are people that provide things from youth programs and libraries that fill potholes, repair sewers, respond to 911 calls. These are the largest component of our city's expenditures. We also spend a significant amount on O&M, basically supplies, contracts, materials, capital, etc. But again, our people are the most and greatest investment in the city. And this is important because whether or not the city has good people and we have filled positions in those good filled positions, really impacts the ability to deliver services that are possible when our budget is funded. Next slide, please. Our budget process internally actually began way back in September, things like that. But our budget process began in February. In February, we brought to the Mayor Council the results of the budget priorities poll survey. That is a scientific poll, kind of you see on the news about the president about the presidents. That is designed to capture across the city the preferences of voters regarding the budget. That information was presented to the Mayor Council in February. In March, that informed a conversation on council and mayor priorities, collective priorities for the city. And the Mayor Council had a very long report to the regular mayor on that topic in March. In April, we presented a 5-year forecast. That's the one time where we decided and projected sort of ascertain the true scale of the deficit we're facing this next year, and put it in the context of 3 more years out. Because while we're making a 2-year spending plan, it's always important to understand the context of the medium-term space. And so that 5-year forecast was presented to council in April. On the 1st of May, the mayor released her proposed budget, which is a balanced budget, as a proposed result of $165 million shortfall, and that budget was presented to the city council on the 3rd of May. We're now at the stage of May where the community budget forms. This is our 3rd May. And those are our government districts 4, 6, and 7. Yes, 4, 6, and 7. And throughout the end of May, the council will be holding meetings at City Hall collectively to discuss the budget, deliberate, and eventually adopt a budget on the 3rd of June in advance of this meeting on the 1st of July. Next slide, please. I mentioned this deficit is the largest in the city's history. It has a couple of positives. The first of which is over the last 2.5 years, the federal government has been almost state city operations. Here and rescue act funds. They're being thrown out to the park up. So here in City Hall, City Park up, applying for federal aid that municipalities received during the pandemic. It's possible those funds. At the same time, we're in a situation where we are leading into a pandemic. Some revenues have not come back from the pandemic. In fact, we are not going to come back. A good example of that I use is the hotel tax. In the current space, we're seeing people travel for vacations. People go out, go to places for vacations. But business travel is not a thing anymore. We've all got very used to doing things on Zoom. We're not seeing big conventions. impacts to city services. I mentioned putting new revenues is not something that the council can do in the short term. We can propose a ballot measure, but we gotta wait till the next election to do that. So we're trying to do this with our own time behind our back to some extent, but it's important to center our principles. The first one of them that the mayor used to address in this budget was centering equity. This means that we intentionally try to avoid to spare, I should say, the most vulnerable populations from the most severe impacts that might come with any changes to a budget. You take that into account consciously from the beginning. Particularly in the city of Oakland, when we talk about equity, we're specifically considering the concept of racial equity. We want to be particularly cognizant that our Black, immigrant, Native American communities are taken care of. The second principle is value of the city workforce. I mentioned that staff are a key way that we provide services. If we do things in a way where we are not preserving, maintaining those staff over the course of the cycle, it impedes our ability to get anything done. And the last one is strategic thinking. And this is kind of a hodgepodge of a lot of things, but it comes down to thinking outside the box and taking risks. And there's a fair amount of that happens in this budget. Not doing things the way we've always done them before, often in ways that might be uncomfortable both internally and externally, in order to address the scale of our shortfall. Next slide, please, Walter. So again, the outcomes of that thought of those equity, of those principles are to engage in something that uses smart fiscal planning, aka using resources where we do have them, leveraging the creativity of everyone in the organization about how we provide services and how we squeeze a little bit tighter, providing more with less. And again, partnering with the council so that we have a unified effort going forward as to how we address this budget. I think the mayor did her best to try to address the priorities that the council laid out in the retreat and the individual priorities that council members submitted. Next slide, please. Let's talk about thinking outside of the boxes space. One of the key proposals in this government relates to our organizational structure. The mayor is proposing consolidating city departments. In that process, we can save $2 million in this whole space. It also allows us to leverage opportunities to ensure certain departments are working together. We've merged our homelessness service unit with our housing and community development department to create a consistent pipeline for people that are on shelter all the way to permanent supportive housing. We've merged our human services department with primary serves, youth, and seniors with our parks and recreation and development department to create a department of children, youth, and families that is designed to serve exactly those communities. And we've merged our planning and building and economic workforce development department to ensure that economic development is at the core of our land use planning going forward. Next slide, please. The mayor is also trying to reorganize oversight in the city administrator's office into 4 entities that we're calling channels. The idea here is there will be an assistant for deputy city administrator in the city administrator's office that wakes up and thinks about how to integrate across each of these channels and the departments that fall underneath it. Community safety is departments like police, fire, and violence prevention. Infrastructure, economic growth, things like DOT, public works, planning and building. Community services, housing and homelessness, children, youth and families, libraries, animal services, and internal services like finance, HR, and IT. Next slide. Here you can see that same information on org chart. The idea is in each of these vertical channels, we're able to ensure that we have thoughtful coordination so that we can leverage our scarce resources better, so that we can ensure that we're leveraging for the benefit of OFD services in DVP. And I apologize, I should have said fire department and violence prevention. Stop me if I go into acronyms. It's hard to not to, but check me on that, please. Next slide. All right, let's talk about how we close this gap. The mayor's proposal has a number of key things that we looked at. First is to freeze vacant positions. I mentioned staffing is the biggest cost in the city. We could not go through this process without freezing positions that are not currently occupied. The mayor is adamant at the beginning of this process that we not lay off any staff, and so we took that to heart, but it does mean that we have to freeze positions that are not occupied right now, and if we filled, we'll be able to provide better service. But that was one of our starting points. We're also allowing for attrition in some key spaces where we will not necessarily fill a position if it becomes vacant. and we'll realize savings from that. We'll delay spending on new initiatives and new things to ensure that we're collectively handling our old, existing services. And where possible, we were creative strategically and moved costs to funding sources which do have resources. This is a really important concept in government. I see some people that have heard me say this like 3 times now, but I'm going to use my same analogy again. In the private sector, when you pull out a dollar bill, what color is it? Not true in the public sector. Our money has colors. You can have blue money, red money, orange money, chartreuse money, lavender money, burnt umber money. And you cannot use a lavender dollar for a burnt umber purpose. We call these distinctions funds. Easiest way to think about it, if we get a federal grant to go out and do a program, I can't take that grant money and do something else with it, right? I have to use it for what its purpose was. Same is true for all of our ballot measures. And so we can be in spaces here where, in some funds, we actually have resources that we can employ, even while we're lacking resources in another one. And so the key thing to do here is to creatively utilize where we do have resources, make investments with those, ensure that we're moving eligible costs over to them to best preserve services. Next slide, Walter. Let's talk about how we invested in priorities with this budget. Let's just actually go to the next slide. Let's jump right into the bit. All right. On the topic of community services, this is those things like serving youth, our seniors, our families out in our community. This budget contains the largest ever investment in affordable housing in the City of Oakland's history over a 2-year period. That is thanks to Measure U, which was passed by voters last November. I mentioned sometimes you can have spaces where you have resources, even though you don't. That's capital funding. We can use it for affordable housing. It's designed for affordable housing. There's some limitations in how much we can use all at once, but it's designed for that. I can't take that and use it for fire services. But when you have resources, you use them accordingly. And again, largest investment in the city's history. We've expanded Head Start and early childhood education programs. That's thanks to Measure AA, which is on the books now. And that allows us to spend millions and millions of dollars improving early childhood education across the City of Oakland. There's over $100 million dedicated to providing services to our unsheltered residents. Most of this is state and federal funding, again, earmarked for those purposes. Our new Department of Children, Youth, and Families is designed to coordinate and streamline efforts to provide services to those key groups to ensure that our most disadvantaged youth are supported in the most key ways that we think about that intergenerational context. And it expands and maintains investments at our libraries and our recreation centers so that we're not seeing any reductions to programming in either of those key entities, which are critical supports for our community. Next slide. On the topic of community safety, the budget allows for 6 police academies over the course of the next 2 fiscal years. This is consistent with what we've done in the past. It will actually allow for a slight increase in the number of officers, and this is one of these confusing budget points. We are going to have actually slightly more people, although we're going to be budgeting for slightly fewer positions in that process. The net of that is we should be able to providing a smaller suite of police services, but we should have officers on duty to do them. It also does strategic things like civilianizing the Internal Affairs Division, moving out of the police department into the Citizens Police Review Agency. It maintains our ongoing investment largely through a state grant in the Mobile Assistant Community Responders of Oakland program, the MACRO program, which many of you are probably aware of. MACRO is an alternate response mechanism for when people call 911. It has trained clinicians that often will respond to people having a mental health crisis or unsheltered or whatnot, as opposed to using an officer's time to do that same work. The budget does have some significant impacts to our fire department. It delays the rollout of 25th Engine Company and on a rotating basis rounds out 1 additional engine company. That first engine, it's not really a service reduction, it doesn't exist right now, we're just not doing it. And the second one is actually a service impact. Although it's not going to specifically hit one part of the city, it's going to be rolled out on a rotating basis. I'll give you an example. If we're in the height of September, the the height of fire season, it doesn't really make sense to run an engine company in the hills where you have really high fire risk and really high fire exposure. But that might be acceptable to do in the middle of the winter when it's raining. So we're leaving it as a rotating brownout so that fire can strategically redeploy in order to minimize impacts. And it preserves our baseline level funding for the Department of Violence Prevention. I will be clear around this. This is not the same scope and scale that we were in the prior 2 years because we had found one-time funding to expand services, but it's much higher than what we've traditionally been able to do for violence prevention. It maintains a lot of key investments in that space. Next slide, please. On the topic of infrastructure and economic growth, this budget contains over $200 million to repair, rebuild, and upgrade parks, rec centers, facilities, libraries, storm drains, sewers across the city. Again, it's a lot of money. Thanks to Measure U, we have dollars that we can invest in capital. Again, I can't take money that we would use to rebuild a library or rebuild a sanitary sewer and use it to support a recreation center. It doesn't work that way. Again, that color of dollars thing here. There's over $70 million allocated for street and road transportation projects. And this is really important because we're talking about capital dollars here. Many of us have experienced the process of running through a pothole. And many of us have had the reaction of, hey, I'd love the city to come out and patch that pothole. Next time you hit one, take a look at the street around it. What I bet you'll see is that the street around that pothole looks like the skin on the back of an alligator. It's actually called the alligator in the professional parlance. It's literally the term for it. What that means is the road base has failed under that. And we can patch that pothole today, but the next day it's going to pop up again. What we actually have to do is completely strip and repave that street. Capital dollars, this is part of that understanding, right? We can do a short-term patch, but until we invest in capital, which we mercifully can do, again, thanks to Measure U, we can actually start tackling that backlog of having consistent streets that don't become potholes again and again and again. The budget also contains additional investments in things like traffic safety, which is a major concern of all the council members, and again allows for better coordination for economic growth in the topic of our land use planning. Next slide, please. When we talk about internal services, these are the non-sexy things, but they are not important until they are. I think many of you are aware that the City of Oakland recently experienced a cyber attack. This budget contains $10 million for additional cybersecurity upgrades in the city. We were able to endure that cyber attack largely thanks to the incredible and diligent work of our IT department and many other agencies across the city without dramatic impacts to city services. But that's not necessarily guaranteed to happen the next time we are attacked. And they will happen, people will continue to grow the city on this. So there's a significant investment in that. I hate to be in the space where we have residents' financial data or something like that compromised as part of a breach. It didn't really happen this time, but it could have. It also includes significant funding and a revitalized strike team for filling vacancies in key departments. I mentioned this idea of our staff are critically important. Filling vacant positions in places in departments that often have funding sources that are robust and healthy, like planning and building, transportation, public works, housing, are really critical to ensure that we can develop and deliver services. I think the idea of the alignment in the new channel should ensure we have streamlined operations in that. Next slide. The fiscal crisis we're facing is limited in scope and time, but I'll be clear with everyone, we are using a whole series of one-time patches to get through this budget without dramatic impact on city services. We're not out of the woods at the end of this budget cycle. But the mayor's proposed budget is a balanced budget. It does responsibly use those resources in order to ensure that we preserve whatever we can with services in our community. We will need to engage over the course of this 2-year cycle to ensure that we are continuing fiscal stewardship. Where the process sits now, the mayor's made a proposal. It is now on the council to collectively think through, amend, improve the mayor's proposed budget and adopt a balanced budget by the 30th of June. I'm going to pivot really briefly to a different page, and we're going to take a look at how you actually learn more about this budget yourself. try to slide over here. I think I'm on the front of the screen right now, so let's see if I can do that this way. Walter, thank you. All right. So if you saw on that last page, that's your website. If you want to find any other information, I'm going to take you right there and we're going to jump into things on it. So your key web page here, and hopefully I didn't kick it now. I have enough internet. Council number 5, it might be helpful to pivot to some questions, and I will show this later. I don't know why the church Wi-Fi went down. What I will say to everyone, though, I'll put that back up again on our slide. This is your key website to go to, so please take a note on it. oaklandcity.gov/budget. You'd like to see me walk through the budget book, which maybe we can do at the end here if I can get this Wi-Fi active operational again. But if not, at the council meeting on the 3rd of May, there's a public video of me walking you through this. What I would say regarding that budget book, it's interactive. It's designed to be played with, not read front to back. Go in, play, explore. It's translatable into any of many languages. So if you have members of the community that need access, please do. I'm gonna pivot right now and allow the council member to take some questions, and then we'll try to jump back into it.
All right. Wasn't that just an invigorating presentation? Woohoo! Very detailed. Love Brad. Like I said, he's very knowledgeable and amazing. So now we're going to go into a little bit of comments and response period. But before we do that, those who registered for this budget town hall answered a question, because one of the questions that we had was, what are the most impactful city services, or what are the city services that are impacting you the most? And we had about 45, 50 comments. The majority of the comments, as you may not be surprised to hear, said that crime and public safety was number 1, traffic safety, homelessness, and affordable housing followed after. So I think we all know that, the city needs some support when it comes to traffic and public safety and homelessness and affordable housing. So we appreciate those who gave your feedback. And those of you who would like to give a little bit more detailed feedback, now's your time. We have a lovely microphone standing in the middle of the aisle. What we like for you to do is to come and stand in line and take the time to speak. I think we might want to limit to how many minutes? 2 minutes. Councilmember 5 full time. And then what we're going to do is toggle between, we're live streaming this on her social media page. So we're going to toggle between live questions and online questions. Okay? Does that sound fair to y'all? Sounds exciting. I'm so excited. Look at all the eager folks ready to ask questions. Yay. So when you come, introduce yourself, say what your name is and your neighborhood if possible, and then you have 2 minutes to say your piece. Enjoy.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. My name is Graham Lustig, and I live in District 2, and I'm here to advocate on behalf of the arts and culture sector. This budget proposes a 37% cut to our cultural institutions here, and I'm here to represent not just the Oakland Valley, for whom I work, but for all of the arts institutions who provide literally hundreds of thousands of free arts experiences for our valued Oakland Unified School District youth. And so these cuts are seriously going to impact our ability to present these kinds of programs in the community. The arts are, as you know, an economic engine for the community. They bring folks downtown to performances, to events where people park, they go to retail, they go to the shops. So this cut represents an enormous burden to organizations that are already suffering very greatly because of the pandemic. We in no way have recovered, and we're still facing loss of funding from foundations and corporations who are cutting us back as well. So I honestly request that Councilmember 5 consider not supporting this 37% cut to the arts and culture. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Can I say anything? Okay. Wait, we're gonna go with our online comment. 1 second. We have a comment and a question from a Daniel Robello. Question: the mayor's budget proposes to increase police spending by roughly $45 million while slashing vital community programs including violence prevention, transitional housing, youth programming, job development, the arts, and more. Simply by not increasing the police budget, we could avoid all these cuts several times over. Do you support amending the mayor's budget to avoid painful cuts to the community by eliminating OPD waste and overspending?
I'm gonna take.
Okay, she's gonna take all the questions and then give answers at the end. So go ahead.
Okay, hi, my name is Tiffany. I'm on the board of Old Oakland Neighbors in Old Oakland. I just have three kind of clarifying questions and comments. One, I cannot figure out how to search the budget. It seems cool and clickable, but before it was one giant PDF and I could search it, so that's just a comment that may be missing it. Second, in terms of like consolidation, I'm trying to understand the rationale behind that. Like it sounds like another layer, and I'm not sure if it's just like a strategic layer, but then I'm not sure if it's also cost cutting. Like I just need to understand the rationale. Like, is it less people, more work for them, or I don't know. So I just some of that would be helpful. And then third is I understand that part about the arm being tied behind, but like there's so many grants out there at the state level, county level, federal level, and my impression is that the city does not have the resources to have grant writers in every department. In some cases, it's fellows or volunteers or community groups writing grants on behalf of the City of Oakland. And so I don't know if that's going to, if you can do anything about that, but it'd be nice to know if that's also going to be affected by the freeze, like that hole that won't be able to be plugged.
Thank you.
Nobody online?
Nope.
Good afternoon, my name is Alex Villa. I am a displaced resident of the Coliseum Collection and a new resident of District 3. I'm very proud of it. I also represent Scrub organization that works with former incarcerated communities. Thank you for the presentation on the budget. If anybody has made budget interested, you should get an award. Council member, I'm gonna say something that you have heard before and I'm gonna beg you to there's trying to slap fees on the scrupulous developers that have used not just part of your town, but part of the community to enrich themselves. How you want to do that is you're gonna have to do an ordinance saying that if you don't rent an apartment in 90 days, right, then your taxes come out. If they decide to go below market, then taxes break will come in. Because at this point, it's starting to be that it's a ghost town in this beautiful state-of-the-art facilities, and nobody, because they don't want to lower their taxes. And you have a problem with, like the rest of the city, with housing. And I'm gonna beg you, don't give him one more penny to Michael Johnson and FBI development. I know that some of this money is money allocated by either the county, right? But he should receive a penny until he atones for all of us displaced people. I'm gonna offer myself and I'm gonna apply the position to be part of the police commission and figure out how to help you with that. But I also have former incarcerated people that probably would like to be in the police commission. And so I'm gonna also submit them to do that. I want to inspire you for something that I learned in Latin America, where I come from, and it's comunidades de base, small-based communities in which, and I know it has been tried, which you create 4 or 5 blocks. You do a rock, especially in West Oakland, and you hit a church and a nonprofit. And we should not be taking your taxes, we should be giving you back. So create those 4 blocks and hold the churches, the nonprofit, and the merchants accountable for those blocks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you all for being here. My name is Hannah German-Press. I'm both a resident of Hoover Foster, and we have some other Hoover Foster RAC folks here. I'm also representing Parent Voices Oakland as their policy associate. And also, in addition to that, part of the People's Budget Coalition. I have a couple of questions.
The first question is that I asked at a previous budget meeting but didn't get an answer to. I'm hoping that we could talk a little bit more about how the consolidation will support children, youth, and families. It's good in theory, but I know there was extensive studies being done on whether the city should implement this change, and the recommendations were actually that the city should not. So yeah, I'm wondering if that $2 million in savings is how it's going to be distributed to children, youth, and families specifically. I'm also curious, you mentioned Head Start, as well as Measure AA. I'm wondering, and hiring increases as well, I'm wondering if the Head Start positions and vacancies are going to be subjected to hiring freezes. As you know, we're in a child care desert in much of Oakland, but especially West Oakland and East Oakland. And then lastly, also along the lines of Head Start, you mentioned that the mayor's budget has a hiring team or is ramping up to try to fill all the vacancies in cities. There, 45% of the vacancies in the Human Services Department are from Head Start. So that's almost 50% of the vacancies in that department. So I'm curious, again, how the hiring freezes will affect those positions and how we can, again, ramp up and fill those positions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Veronica Alexander. I am a resident of the Foster River area, and my concern is the traffic safety along 35th Street between San Pablo all the way down to Martin Luther King. Also, as well as the illegal dumping that seems to happen a lot. Just recently, I had to report 2 dead dogs that were dumped on the side of the road at the corner of 35th Street and Martin Luther King. Also, seeing if you guys can work with the homeless that is along West Street to move them across the street, because it is a safety concern for kids who are going to Hoover Middle School in the morning and they're crossing along the side of the street where freeway exit comes off and goes on. Or consider a turning traffic signal for West Street and as well as for Market Street. Now, the street between Market and West needs major work done. I was just at my family home on 62nd and Kennedy, and I just see that they just repaved the streets and they're getting ready to put speed bumps in. That is long overdue. I'm 37 years old, and it's been like that as long as I can remember that street with all the trucks and everything that is coming through that area. So those are the things that I would like to see. I'm not going to be too big on the homeless issue. I'd rather them move across the street because there's nothing that we can honestly do to help folks right now. But I know that the help is there, and I know you guys with the city are trying as hard as possible. But I also am willing to talk with residents and assist with that if possible, so we can work with them to keep the children safe from this freeway ramp. And then also to check with the city about the traffic signal that constantly goes out on 36th Street and West coming off of the freeway. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jessie.
Closer.
Hiker and
Closer.
District 2.
Oh, I need closer to the mic. Can you move closer to the mic? Yeah.
My name is Jessie, and I'm an organizer for the Real People's Fund, and I also represent a coalition of small businesses. And to be more specific, small businesses that include worker-owned co-ops, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, micro businesses, at-home businesses, and we've been organizing political education and budget study meetings to understand as small businesses how will the city support and prioritize the community of small businesses that represent the cultural vibrancy of Oakland.
And we've noticed a lot of movement and shifts in the City of Oakland's budget. We want to ask you how is your district going to prioritize the businesses that I'm speaking about and representing, specifically Black, Indigenous, Latina, and API small businesses of color that are still struggling after 2+ years of the pandemic. And as Bradley shared in the presentation, a lot of those funding for small businesses came from federal funds. And so going into this current budget policy, there are things around small business support that we're wanting to be more culturally relevant, more accessible, and more impactful for the small businesses in all the districts, and specifically here. So like we're sitting here today with some co-ops and local like Oakland residents that really want to support the small business needs. And so just the question is, what are some of the ways that your district is going to be supporting small businesses in the next 2 years? Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ray Kidd. I live in the Clawson Condos neighborhood, West Oakland. All of the recent citywide surveys have shown that the two highest priorities for Oakland residents are homelessness and affordable housing. Public safety usually comes in third, and that's important too. And local surveys we've done in Clawson and climates have reflected those same priorities: homelessness and affordable housing. And I think the city budget should reflect those same priorities, putting those two at the top of the budgetary needs. And when I say homeless services, I mean the full range, from providing hygiene services to people who live on the street, to providing transitional housing, to providing supporting housing, and everything in between. And I would include in that too the macro. 90 to 95% of all the clients or all the contacts that the macro makes are with homeless people. And I think in the last year or so, I think that macro has proved to be a very valuable addition to the city's repertoire, so to speak. And I think not quite directly related to the budget, but what's needed, another item that's needed connected with homelessness is just more space to put tiny houses, to put transitional houses. So I think that the city government, both the council and the mayor, need to really sort of look as widely as they can, especially among government agencies. City land, especially Caltrans land, OUSD land, all of the public agencies that might have some land that could be used for any of these purposes there needs to be pressure to use those for what's really needed regarding homelessness. And so I think those would be the priorities I would recommend. And thank you for allowing 2 minutes. It's very hard to do anything in 1 minute.
Thank you.
James Van. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm a resident of the Greenwood neighborhood, used to be in District 3, and got switched to the border shifted on me, so I'm now in District 2. However, I think there is something, thank you for the presentation, very helpful. However, it is kind of hard to understand the fact that how we got into this mess. And frankly, if it hadn't been for Measure U, which the voters passed a year ago, how would we get out of it? Measure U is most of this new funding is going to come out of Measure U, not out of, if we hadn't passed Measure U, what would we have done? That raises a question. There is no new Measure U on the horizon. So what will we do in 2 years if this mess, this deficit mess, is not contained? Also, in the consolidation of departments, somehow Parks and Recreation gets lost. I don't see where it fits, and it's not specifically designated. So that needs to be looked at also. An important part of this budget discussion is something that I know Councilmember White is a high priority for you, is homelessness and getting people off the streets. The budget says that $108 million is being allocated to homelessness projects. So it really, this has never happened before in the city. And I'm very closely involved with the homelessness issues. This has never happened before. But if there is $108 million, I would really hope that somehow the presentation can detail that. Thank you.
So we do have another question online. So we have an online question. To what extent does the budget support increasing macro to be citywide and 24/7? And also to support the ability for them to go inside homes, which are a needed service. Okay. Okay. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Sharon Cornell. I'm here from St. Mary's Center, and I want to say hello to the members of the Working Group on Equitable Recovery from the San Pablo corridor who are watching online. We have prepared 3 specific asks as a group. Number 1, to increase funding for community safety and violence prevention programs, to provide grants to grassroots community organizations and neighborhood groups with a focus in areas where residents are experiencing increases in violent and stressful experiences. We experienced another shooting on Rogers Avenue last night and have serious concerns about continued violence on Brocker Street. Second point, to expand macro to citywide 24/7 coverage, which you've heard from other people, with appropriate full-time and secure long-term employment. St. Mary's Center is very pleased to support macro, to welcome macro employees into our trainings for motivational interviewing and other services. I would hope that the city could provide training for macro employees. I would hope that the city could provide supervision and support because our staff get calls from macro service staff about how to handle issues. We are delighted to support macro, but macro needs to be built out fully. The second ask is to fund programs that increase safety for seniors, community businesses, children, youth, and families in the Hoover Foster neighborhood, as you heard from a number of people this evening, to invest in bringing violence interrupters to the main corridors of beat 6X and 7X and along the San Pablo corridor. Violence interrupters must be individuals from or with connections to the Hoover Foster neighborhood. Second point under this bullet, to fully fund ceasefire and design and implement a ceasefire strategy for the Hoover Foster neighborhood. We've had excellent support from ceasefire, and then they got laid off, and then we got tried to get back with them. My last point, to commit to engaging community by working with resident representatives to design and implement proposed solutions, including but not limited to violence interrupters, ceasefire strategy, and community safety programs. Let me close by applauding Tiffany A. The old budget book, you could find something. I cannot find anything in the budget workshop, the budget website. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Shani Donji. I live here in District 3. I know someone previously asked specifically about the budget and the money that's being allocated to policing. And so I'm very eager to hear a response about that, but I also wanted to offer a public comment. So on the same topic, if safety is truly a priority, then I think we really need to be clear about what keeps us safe. And it isn't police, nor has it ever been. Putting money towards police academies specifically, especially when historically there's been less than a 66% graduation rate, is wasteful. And it's wasteful in about $25 million. I think if we really want to keep us safe, then we need to invest in our communities, then we really need to think about spending money on schools for our kids instead of schools for our cops.
My name is Kristen Loomis. I'm a resident of District 3. I have a couple of odd things. One is that I live on the intersection of two streets that seem to see a lot of car accidents. And, we've learned to hear the sound of that metal crunching under metal. So we tend to go out and see if everything's okay, if the drivers are handling it and stuff like that. And we don't do much, but I wonder if there are other people around town that are doing the same thing. And if there would be a way that the city could say, okay, if you're in an accident, go out and do this. And don't worry about what happens next. But just the sense of getting people together who are willing to get involved and before the police get there, if they get there. And the second thing is my church is in the process of having one of their houses rehab, it's the old parsonage, I guess, for people who are coming back from being incarcerated. And it's not going well because things were done badly. And I'm wondering how much of this activity is happening in Oakland, and if maybe the city needs to take some attention and say, if you're doing this, please be sure to do the following things so that it works. I'm not saying that this has to become an Oakland specialty, welcoming incarcerated back home, but I am worried that it's happening hither and yon without anybody really paying attention to what's the best way to do it. That's all. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Naomi, longtime District 3 person, and have been participating at Mosswood Park, among other places, trying to clean things up and make them better. I am extremely concerned about this consolidation of the Parks Department in which the Parks Department disappears. And I would like an explanation of where the maintenance of parks is incorporated and fully funded. Parks gets a ridiculously small amount of money anyway, and I know that somehow they are entangled with public works. I don't really get the consolidation of that with human resources, or with the human services, which seem to be all about people and helping folks with various social issues. So I would really like to know, where are our parks? It's not only family and children using after-school programs. Seniors use parks. Single people with no kids use parks. Everybody uses the parks. A lot of young people play basketball right across the street. And they aren't going to sign up for after-school programs, but they really need the park. And they need the park to be in a safe, usable condition just as much as, the toddlers and their moms do. So I really want a second look at how that is in, maybe the idea was just to get rid of the fact that there's two expensive directors there, the parks person and this other person in the services. But I am extremely nervous that Parks has already been demoted under Public Works and is now going to get demoted again, and will even disappear as a word. Like, at least keep the word parks someplace in your bureaucracy. Thank you.
Hello. Good afternoon, Council Member 5. My name is Carmen Alvarez, and I am here from Saba, the Saba stores. And I first wanted to say thank you for approving for the last 2 years the budget of $500,000 for the program of Fresh 5X. Saba cards first, and then Fresh 5X. We've had a lot of Oaklanders benefit from being able to get access to healthier fruits and vegetables. We have 2 stores right now that have this program, Fresh 5, which is for every $1 that is spent on their EBT card, they get $5 credit to buy more fresh fruits and vegetables every month, up to $300. We have 454 people that participate. Shoppers has 90 people. We just started about a couple months ago. And so we are looking to expand to 10 stores. So we're asking for your support with the council to continue with the $500,000 every year for the next cycle of 23-25. So the reason that we're pushing for this is because the soda tax, and we're asking for this money to come from the soda tax. The soda tax was passed to benefit those, especially the people that are in the flatlands, that have had higher risk of diabetes, obesity, heart problems because of the soda intake. And so this tax was to support the health and the well-being of Oaklanders. And this program is in complete alignment with supporting Oaklanders to have access to fresh fruits and vegetables in their corner stores. Choppers is a store that is in their district right now that has this program. And we have, for those of you that don't know, it's on the 23rd and 21st. Go check it out. They've been able to expand the selection to over 50 different fruits and vegetables, move tobacco out of the store, push the sodas to the back, and all of this looking for our communities, for our children to have healthier access for them to have. So again, we're just asking for your support to continue with this program so we can expand it and have more benefit for Oaklanders. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Council Member Five.
Good afternoon.
To staff and to Mr. Johnson, my second time in your presentation, and thank you for bringing him. You're a wonderful brother. Give him my hand. And Oakland. I found out what district his mother is, and I will tell you all that too. But I'm a resident of District 3. Some of you know, others learned tonight that last year my house caught on fire and lost everything. But thank God I didn't lose any family members. But it's been challenging finding housing because it's so expensive. My agency, we also help to house over 40 families in West Oakland and North Oakland with the local housing developer. And we need to work with that developer and those families through this very difficult time. They have had challenges paying the rent, etc. But I'm fortunate that I have a lot of daughters and other family members that live in Oakland, so I can couch here, couch there, as my wife allows. But I am the CEO of the Oakland Private Industry Council and the workforce development agencies. Our doors were open during COVID-19. And so we haven't had time off. We've been working ever since with limited to few resources. I want to thank Councilmember Five and other council members that have continued to support PIC and other workforce agencies. I'd like to encourage the City of Oakland HR department to partner with workforce. Rather than bring in someone outside who doesn't know the resident, partner with workforce agencies. We put on job fairs for job seekers every month, and thousands of people show up. We're in every neighborhood. It just makes sense to contract with us to do that work. Let me have one more minute, please. Another thing we like to do is see the general funds increase for workforce, Mr. Johnson, and the reason why, if your violence prevention people don't have anyone to refer for jobs, then that's going to be a big challenge there. So we need to keep our workforce at the level that it is. And then lastly, partner with the local churches. It was the local churches that helped pass Measure A1. Local churches helped pass Measure AA and Measure KK. And it's local churches that are suffering too. And we need to keep those churches involved in our community because they provide a place like tonight, and they have land and opportunities for jobs. Whenever anything goes down in Oakland, the churches are going to be there. We're going to stand up against, crime and violence. We're going to work with the young brothers and sisters because they're kids from our community. I just buried 2 nephews, one today, one yesterday, because of the violence that keeps happening. I'm tired of burying my relatives. This family member number 17 today. And I'm tired of eulogizing young people. I've eulogized over 150 families in this city. I want to see our kids go to college. I want them to graduate from Cal, Stanford, Yale, Harvard, and I want to empty out the prisons and jails because we were not raised as people of color, especially black people, to go to jail or prison, we have to go to church, we have to go to school, or we have to go into the armed service. Mr. President, thank you, council member. Keep up the work.
You do. Well, never mind.
Good evening. My name is Damian Scott of East Bay Housing Organizations, which is a member of the People's Budget Coalition. As fate would have it, I'm also a displaced resident of Coliseum Connections. Just experiencing all of that really underscored the importance of affordable housing to me and the importance of making sure that it is funded. Me and a bunch of other folks in my building experienced firsthand just how little affordable housing there is in Oakland. A lot of folks have been displaced to outside of Oakland. These are more black people being displaced out of Oakland because of climate change, because of a lack of investment in our infrastructure. Two of the things I really want to highlight that EBHO members have talked about is we got to make sure HCD staff, we don't cut any of that staff. That was like one of the departments that we worked with most in Coliseum Connections. Those folks that worked with us the most through the whole ordeal that a lot of folks are still going through. So got to ensure that those jobs aren't cut, and that any funding that's already been allocated to affordable housing, like Measure U, we got to make sure that's being allocated and given and spent immediately, so that so that the developers can get that money immediately and start building. Affordable housing is absolutely necessary, and separate from my work with EBHO, Michael Johnson, don't give him one more nickel in this town. He has robbed this town so much. Don't give him any more money, please. But that's not an EBHO right. Thank you, folks.
Hi, my name is Brian Culbertson. I live in Prescott, and I'm here representing a couple organizations. About 20 neighborhood organizations.
Hang on, Brian.
Have assembled a petition list over this past couple months, and that we delivered to the mayor and to the council, and I just want to read a small portion of it. Preventable traffic violence in Oakland has killed over 300 people and injured over 30,000 in the past decade, with 36 people killed last year. So we are asking for a significant investment in traffic safety in Oakland. We were asking for $20 million to be transferred from OPD to OCDOT in order to make our streets safer. So we believe that community streets can be safe, accessible, and enjoyable public spaces that strengthen our social fabric, attract residents to their front porches, and reduce opportunities for crime. By implementing traffic calming measures, we can reduce collisions, injuries, and death. Instead of relying on sporadic police traffic stops and aggressive fines, we can build long-term physical infrastructure that makes Oakland streets permanently safer for all people of all ages and abilities at all hours of the day. And this was signed by a number of organizations, but I'll call out a couple of them, like Senior Disability Action, Anti-Police Terror Project, East Bay Young Democrats, Clausen House, California Nurses, Oakland Educational Association, Restore Oakland, Scraper Bike Team, Layoffs for the Blind and Visually Impaired, and many more. When looking at the budget, we noticed that you set aside some traffic safety funds, so we thank you for that. Feedback from some of these organizations, especially the ones that are focused on accessibility, was that there should be a focus on improving our sidewalks. Many of them are impossible for people with accessibility needs to get around. So if that could be directed or a focus in the budget to set aside funds for sidewalk repair, that would be great.
Thank you. You're going to want one more. Ready?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, let me just say two things. Joe DeVries, whatever his name is, what's his name? Joe DeVries?
DeVries.
DeVries, yeah, I don't care. He's racist. And that's what I will say, like, the whole thing going around at the Oakland, like, Lake Merritt, like, I think it's ridiculous. You know, I see a lot of these like people go online, like maybe some of you in here, some of you are racist, some of you are like anonymous on the next door, a lot of those websites. So see one of you in here, maybe, who knows. But what I want to say is that we need to figure out ways of how can we support our communities in healthy ways, and not trying to figure out ways of, you know, trying to, trying to take money away from people from Lake Mary, or take money away from Black-owned businesses around the lake, and also things of like sideshows, and support those things. Because I think for me personally, I look at East Oakland, I don't hear them in sideshows. I know some of y'all do. I don't hear them at all. I'm posted on 23rd National. So I think those are things, and also help sex trafficker workers. I know that on District 2, I know y'all have that, you know, they try to do that one thing. So really talk about how we can support these women, and because it seemed like, and also try to figure out how can we really advocate for those two things. And also going back to the lake is, I think that when we try to do more punitive damages for the lake, I think that it takes away from the opposite of lake of having fun. I mean, we look at commercial real estate, we look at downtown Oakland right now. There are no buildings, there is very empty, vacancy rate, I think it's at 32%. So it's only gonna get more higher because nobody really needs that. Nobody needs to go downtown Oakland. So we have to change our ways of living, and I see a lot of people, businesses actually becoming more home-based. So let's figure it out and support that. So that's all I have to say.
My name is Julie.
Speak up.
My name is Julie, and I'm here to support music in our schools. I'm a music teacher, and my friend who is, I believe, recently appointed as an arts council, arts commissioner, and he was saying that there were, in the proposed mayor's proposal, that there are proposed cuts to some of the arts funding in our schools. And I know I work with a professional organization, a nonprofit that has been training music teachers in OUSD. And the program has grown quite a bit in the past few years. And it's really amazing to see better trained teachers in schools that are getting more students really good music and arts education. And I personally work in a private school because I have not felt, I used to work in OUSD and they could hire me 1 day a week. That's how much music the school could afford. And I went and got a job at a private school because I knew I could have a 5-day-a-week full-time job. I would like to work in public schools. And in the past few years, I've been thinking, I could go and Oakland's doing it. We're funding music education and there's momentum and there's a ball rolling, I think. And our arts education, from what I understand, takes up about 1% of our city's budget. And it seems like a shame to stop the ball that's rolling on a really great program in Oakland Unified, and that comes from a lot of city funds. So just wanted to make a plug for that. I think a lot of violence prevention programs have made a connection between great arts funding in schools and violence prevention. So that's all I want to say. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, my name is So Paul Yen. I'm one of the community organizers. We're from a Center for Empowering Refugee Immigrants, and there's others like there. We are serving we are genocide survivors. We're from Cambodia, and most of us are settled down in East Oakland since 1981. And I know Oakland has been changed a lot. And our agency just moved to, from East Oakland to Lake Mary on Grand Avenue. And our staff have been, we just moved like a little bit over a month ago. And I was not parked the car. This is right on the lake, and the car's been broken into multiple times, and our elders feel unsafe, even walking around the lake. And we serve in youth program too. We have summer school program, and I would like the city to invest more money in the youth program, and for us to for the summer camp, and we offer free summer camp for the youth. So rather than have them hanging out on the street and no support, I think that's the most important thing, to invest in the youth, have them some things to do. Because I think last year we lost a son and a father to a freeway shooting on 580, and it is it's like we feel like we escaped the war, and now we enter into a war zone, and it's like it's endless, scary, and some of our community live, as I said, live in this Oakland, they feel unsafe every day. When there's a gunshot, sometimes, we used to hear the bomb dropping and we would hit underneath our bed. Now we hear the gunshot, so we still stay underneath the bed. And so, we do group support every 3 times a week, and we do activity. And thank you for the City of Oakland to provide us a bus that come and take them, and we go outside Oakland and just do the activity at least once a month. But yeah, please continue to support the grassroots community. This is the most important, that we serve the community and helping the youth. And the police stop targeting the youth, especially the color. People of color like us, we're like serving Cambodia, Southeast Asian community, and just like sometimes they get stopped for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We have another online question before you go. Okay. So, Councilmember Fife, you've long advocated for the merger of HCD with the Homeless Services Department, which makes sense in terms of coordination and collaboration. But earlier in the week at another town hall, a city staffer said that if 2 departments had the same position, that the work would be combined to 1 person. This sounds problematic, and I'm hoping that the council member can give some insight into how she is hoping the merger goes.
Good evening. My name is Malika Ali. I also live in District 3.
That's better. Yeah.
I live in District 3.
Give me your name again, please. Your name again?
Malika Ali. I live on Union Street in West Oakland. So a couple things. I would also like to sentiment my counterparts, sentiment Jesse around supporting small businesses, specifically small Black businesses. Those are drying up at an alarming rate, and I no longer see them. The other thing I would like to bring up is the traffic at Union Street between 10th and 12th. Sometimes cars come down that street doing literally like 65 miles an hour. They don't stop at the stop signs. They just plow through. There are children in that neighborhood, specifically on that intersection, and older people. So maybe in the budget, there could be some provision for some traffic safety in that area.
Thank you.
I'm okay?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, my name is Nikia Durgan. I am a resident of 7th Street, shout out to Lower Bottoms. I am raising my son in District 3. I'm also a local artist and performer, a low-key small business owner. I want to thank you all for creating this space for commentary and feedback and for your presentation. This is more of just a comment. I am a mother, I am a working person, I'm an artist, and
something you said really struck me in your presentation, that the focus was to do things differently. It sounded like be a little bit more dynamic in problem solving with this big challenge of the deficit. To me, consolidating these departments, for example, like Parks and Recs and with children and, you know, the families and all that, consolidating these departments doesn't sound like a new solution. It sounds kind of like things that is expected of government and of the city. I would say, I would admit that I'm a little disconnected from policy oftentimes, because I've seen you in the community and it seems like you're doing a really great job and you're trying hard and you're really tapped in. But the reality of what I experience and what I feel when I wake up and I walk through my neighborhood is much of what everybody commented on here. So I really do hope that in looking at this budget, we are not forgotten. I think homelessness is a very big priority, but there is a little space in between homeless and middle class, and even in between working class and homeless. I would say that I occupy that space. It often feels like I'm closer to joining my curbside citizens rather than, you know, being on the other end of it. So just not forgetting us, not forgetting small business owners, cooperative owners, not forgetting parents and children and their families and seniors. And just really go hard for us. I know my time's up, but that's just my comment. Thank you.
That it? Last call for any more comments, questions, concerns? Okay. Let me just keep this right here.
I want to thank you for putting this on. My name is Tracy, and I am in District 3. I have a nonprofit where we provide housing for women and children. And I kind of feel a little selfish because of what everybody else has said. My question is that in March, there was a community grant that went out that I applied for. Will that be in the budget, or is that going to get cut? That's my question.
Tracy, since you were last, can you tell me which grant program you applied for?
Community grant.
Oh, okay. Okay. I will look into that. So I will follow up with you on that one. I'm gonna go back to all the notes that I took. Can you hold this for a second?
Absolutely.
See where we can start. I feel like I had a lot more pages. I'm going to try to answer everyone's questions. And I just want to make sure I have them all in front of me. Did we start with James? We didn't start with James Band, did we? Oh, there it is. There it is. Okay. Okay. So first, we started with Greg from D2. First of all, thank you all. That was a lot of questions, really tough, some of them. But thank you for being here to express those. And I want to say that I am one of 8 on the city council. And I guess the second to the last statement really moved me. I was really moved by don't forget us and go hard for us. And I'm going to really try to do that. That's what I've always really tried to do. So I started at the top of this meeting saying I'm going to go hard 110% to fight for people just like you and people who have less than you. And so that's what I was put on this planet to do. And I will say that when you're trying to shift systems, especially systems that are intended to not work for people like you, it is like moving a mountain. But I do believe we're in a place of faith that if you have the faith and you put some action behind that faith, you can make it happen. And that's what I'm going to do. And that is my commitment to you and to everybody in this room.
Right on.
Yeah. So the 37% cut to cultural arts, and I can let Bradley speak to this, is deeply painful, and it is not something that is in alignment with my principles. I believe that arts and culture is public safety. I believe that the programs that we have for children and youth, young people, and our elders, are life-saving and life-affirming. My children, my older children who will be 28 this year, attended Alice Arts when it was Alice Arts Center, is now Malanga. And just the joy and everything that those programs bring are critical. And I think because we don't have the funding, like one of our teachers, I believe her name was Julie, said, we don't provide those services in schools, is why we have what we have happening in the streets, not just in Oakland, but around the country. The issues that we face in Oakland are the same issues we face in Chicago, are the same issues we face in New York, because we live in a system of oppression that was not designed to work for people who look like me. And it's not just Black folks, it's brown folks, it's Asian folks, it's Latino folks, it's all of us, especially people who are poor and people who don't have. For white folks who are struggling in working class, this was never designed for us to work. And the reason why you're seeing all of this chaos is because the systems that designed things in this way are actually dying. They're falling apart. The polarities we're seeing in the nation right now are because those systems have been challenged for decades, and now that we're seeing them burst at the seams, because we cannot continue to exist in this space and how we've done. I said at the top of this meeting that I didn't create these systems, but I will highlight the contradictions of them. And so, yes, cutting arts is a problem for me in my heart. I am an artist, y'all probably don't know that. And I do that to calm down when I try to leave this space of chaos, this capitalist system. When I try to get some me time, I paint and I do jigsaw puzzles and things like that. But I do art. The challenge right now, and I'm trying to do this in the most politically correct way because people call me angry and all of these things and make up all this stuff about me who have not really talked to me or don't know me. But when I criticize the previous administration who was in place for 8 years, and it's not criticizing people, it's criticizing the processes. To have access to ARPA funds and to do some of the things that were done in the previous administration, it set us up for what we're experiencing right now. I can't say in good conscience that we used our money in the best way. We are trying to fix things. And right now with the mayor's proposed budget, the cuts are across the board. They're not equitable. They're not the same in every department, but everyone is cutting. Everyone, every single department is impacted by these cuts. It is not my desire. It is not. But we're trying to figure out, looking at the mayor's budget and talking to the president's budget team, how to best do that in a way that causes the least pain. But folks have been hurting. And right now, because of COVID and not being able to fully get back to the way things were, not that they were good before, but trying to get back to some kind of sense of normalcy is hard. I don't have all those answers. But I need you all to keep coming and talking to me throughout the next few weeks so we can figure out what's the best way to do it. If you all have a different place, this is the budget book. Somebody said they couldn't find it online, couldn't navigate it. There are printed budget books. So this is, I'm not gonna say Bible, but this is what's guiding us right now. And so if you all have other ideas of where we can cut from so we can restore arts funding, I will definitely entertain that and take that back to my budget team. I will do that. But I need to know, what are you suggesting could be cut? And I'm asking that for all of the folks that say restore this. Okay, let's put our heads together and figure out, where should we take it from? Right? I heard that. Let's have that conversation. If I say we're gonna restore these 37% cuts from the police department to arts and to other places, who's gonna have my front and back when they come from my neck on Fox News? Who's gonna, I love it. Who's gonna come from my neck when they say, look at Carol supporting criminals? All she does is nurture criminals. She doesn't care about people who are being abused at sideshows. She doesn't care that sideshows are plaguing our communities. Look at her, this happening in San Francisco. They are recalling people who are saying invest in the community, who are saying we don't want to invest in punitive measures anymore. You all, I want you to understand, I'm in a position where this entire system not just me, all of y'all, right now, what we're seeing in the streets is because they're coming down on our necks because we are demanding something different. How long can you hold out when the police are like, okay, y'all don't want us. Y'all are talking about defund. So what if we just don't show up? What if we just say we're gonna go over here instead of over there? I'm not saying that's what's happening. I'm not saying that. But what if that happened? What if that happened? And then crime increased. And then break-ins and windows started getting smashed and nobody would come. What happens when the system turns in on itself to protect itself because the people have stood up to demand something different? What are we going to do? Don't ask me what I'm going to do. What are we going to do when we start to see chaos because the existing systems have said, okay, that's what y'all want? Okay, what is the plan? So the next time we meet in this sanctuary, I want us to not have this question and answer, but a round table. And say, when the police stop coming, what are we going to do? What have we organized to take care of ourselves? I don't want to talk about some ideology. I want to talk about practical, everyday. Folks are calling me at 3 a.m. I get calls all night, and I answer them. When people are calling and saying, I hear somebody in my house, or my roommate in my SRO is on a bender, and I don't feel safe. Who's going to help me with that? What do I tell them? Those are the conversations I want to have. I am not in opposition. I think the way out of this mess is to invest in our children from the beginning, to invest in our folks that are coming home from being incarcerated in a system that was set up to have them incarcerated in the first place, because that's where slavery is legal, right? That's where this country still gets free labor. What are we going to do? So don't ask me, because I didn't come here to be the answer to everybody's demands and requests. I came here so we could collectively come up with the people's solutions to our problems, right? I'm not a savior. There's somebody up there who was on that. It's not Carol, and I didn't come here to be a martyr. I came here to work for and with you all. So what does that look like? What does we keep us safe really look like? Because there are organizations in the community who do that, who show up when people's businesses are broken into. Oh Lord, I'm taking too much. I got a flight. Hold on, I gotta answer all these questions. I'm sorry. Does that make sense? Are y'all down to have a real conversation about what we do? Are y'all willing to go through this book and help me have a study session on what to cut to reinvest? Because that's the next steps. All right. Brad, I'm gonna get you so you can answer some technical questions. Tiffany from Old Oakland Neighbor said she can't search the budget book for the answers that she's looking for. And the consolidation sounds like another layer, a lot more work. And there's a lot of grants at the state and federal level, which I'm looking into, grants at the state. Where's Tiffany? Where's
She's
Tiffany?
online now.
Oh, she's online. So Tiffany, you're online. I'm working with our lobbyists on some of my budget priorities around environment, safety, and other things to look at what the state and federal grants are available. That is a lot of work. We have one lobbyist who does that, and every single department in the city does not have that. But it is an emergency measure that we're looking at. So I will circle back with you on the details of what you're looking for, but on the consolidation, sounding like another layer, I get that. It is cost saving, and it is the mayor's plan to pull things together and kind of consolidate the work. But there was another question, I guess I'll answer Dolores's as well, and that two people will have to do the same work. I will circle back because I can't speak to that right now, but I will get that answer back to you all. I'll put that out on my social media and in my next newsletter. But Bradley, if you can help about the budget book and not being searchable or what have you.
So there's a PDF copy of the book. I don't know if the website is, we've got internet back and connected on it, but if we don't, if you go to that website that's up there, there is actually a PDF copy of this book where if you wanted to download it that way. I do recommend actually that you use page search though on the online tool because it has a lot more functionality, but there is a PDF copy of it exactly there. And there will be hard copies in all the libraries if you need them.
Thank you for that. Alex Villa from Coliseum Connections, and to everyone here, if there's anyone still here from Coliseum Connections, I see y'all back here. Y'all are warriors, especially Alex, the way that you showed up on city council meetings, just in spite of what you were going through, representing for folks, and you two serve from my heart is breaking for y'all. Nobody should go through that. It's almost like our own local Katrina, where you all have been displaced for how many days now? Over 100 days? 135 days. It is not my district. It is District 6, formerly District 7. And I didn't even know that things were still as challenged as they are right now. Once again, it is not my district, but I need y'all to call me and tell me how I can be supportive, what I can do to help. You said don't give Michael Johnson another $1. When his last contract came, I didn't. And I got drugged for that. It is not, once again, it is not about a person. It is always, for me, about principles. And I can't commit to this idea of, well, his contracts, I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know where he is legally with this particular case. But what I can commit to is when you all call me, to be there for you in the ways that you need me to. And so we can talk more about what that looks like. And I can also be in conversation with the mayor's office and your council representative to support you in getting what you need. One of the things I did advocate for you all was around not only giving benefits or relocation fees just to below market residents, but to all residents. And so I want that to be clear. I think anyone at that complex that was flooded out, who has not received housing should have access to relocation fees, period. That's it. So I just wanted to let y'all know. Alex, you have my number, call me. And you did have some ideas I want you to tell me about too, around fees for developers who don't rent their apartments within 90 days. That was interesting. Let's talk more about that. Hannah from Hoover Foster and Parent Voices. I cannot read my own writing. Hannah, People's Budget. How will the merger help children and families? What the intent was when the mayor's office and the city administration created these channels was to consolidate work and have it directly have the staff who directly work in those departments have a more seamless and direct relationship with the different departments that they work in conjunction with. And Bradley, maybe you can speak a little bit more to this here in the administration. But I know when she initially did it, it was to streamline the work and make it more accessible, make people more accessible to the public, and to be cost saving. Some of those departments do not have directors right now. So there is the money savings that come from those vacant positions that will be brought together and can be used to address this budget deficit. So we save time instead of having this long drawn out search for additional directors, but also the funds that are in those line items could then go back into feeding other needs for the city. But Brad, maybe you can describe a little more.
Sure. Briefly on the big org chart in terms of those channels, that doesn't actually add any new layers. What it is using the existing staff and aligning them in specific purposes so that there's some coordination and alignment as it relates to, I think I can answer another one that was on there about children, youth, and families. The Human Services Department primarily provides Head Start services, Open Fund for Children, Youth, and Senior Centers. Those are their major programs. As it is currently structured, Parks, Recreation, and Development does not do parks maintenance. That's in Public Works. That entity is a entity that serves private recreation programming and facilities. Public Works as an entity maintains all green, open space, and facilities citywide. It's already an efficiency thing that we've done in the city, so it maintains everything. The collapse of two departments together to put your recreation programming together with your youth nonprofit programming, together with your Head Start programming, together with your seniors programming, and all the people who provide those services to again align those needs intergenerational support in that space.
Okay. She had to go on a little bio break, but while she's gone, I'm gonna answer the macro question that was submitted, about how to expand macro citywide. We would love to do that, so we're gonna take that suggestion as we deliberate over the council, budget proposal. But the second question was talking about, how to get them to be able to go inside homes. Just to let you know, we actually just came from the fire department. They gave us an in-depth training. Y'all, have y'all been in a fire? Have y'all worn these outfits that they wear? They're an extra 24 pounds. Then you got the helmet, you got this tank that you gotta breathe into, and it's hot, it's crazy. So we all need to give it up to the fire department because man, they be doing a good job for us, all right? So we talked with Macro, the lieutenant that's in charge of Macro, and the issue with them going inside homes, it is state law that anyone that has the ability to go inside a home to help a constituent or a resident, they have to go through background checks. They have to go through criminal background checks. They have to go through testing to make sure that they themselves don't have a lot of mental issues. And all these other safety checks before they have the ability to go inside a home. One of the key things that advocates really asked for in terms of macro was to hire those with lived experiences around mental health and other issues. And so if they are subjected to those background checks, they are not going to be able to be hired. So that is the conflict. One of the things we have to do maybe is advocate to the state law to get that changed, because what we do want is we want real community helping community, right? So we don't want to have any barriers for them, but right now that is the barrier for macro. So that's something that we're going to have to advocate for in the future. Okay? Yay, you're back.
It is 7 p.m. and we had this, well, 6:57, it's 3 minutes till the time we had slated. We did start a little late, so I was just asking my chief of staff how to best handle this. So I will say that there are very specific questions that certain people ask, like Malika around Union Street at 10th and 12th, that I will look, I'll check with our Department of Transportation to see if that is currently on our traffic safety program. There are areas that are in our high traffic network, so I will research that to find out if those intersections are on that website and get back to you and find out what can be done. There are really low barrier ways that we can create traffic calming measures in the city of Oakland. That's something I'm looking for with this budget to address throughout the district. So I will get back to you. So please make sure that you signed in and you left your contact information, because there's several people that I need to address directly. Like Nikki Durgan, I think that was the name. Yes, on the artist Tracy, I need to call you back directly. I do want to lift up that Sipon, who moved from East Oakland to Lake Merritt, that described all of the break-ins that were happening and how the elders felt unsafe, lifted up supporting grassroots community efforts. Did y'all hear that? Did y'all catch that? I thought that was really interesting and quite encouraging. And we still got to figure out how we keep folks safe. And I just, so we're clear, I don't want people to just feel safe, because sometimes what makes people feel safe is when we say we're going to have 1,200 police officers to make people feel safe, but they don't actually safer, right? I want people to be safe for real, from cradle to the grave. I want you to be safe. So the transformations I'm talking about, our systems, the things that I'm talking about doing, are actually creating real safety. We don't have control over the Oakland Unified School District, but what I will say is that one of the things that I'm doing around housing and homelessness is pushing on the County of Alameda, who has a great deal more money than the City of Oakland, to create a universal vacant lands and vacant property database, so that OUSD, the County of Alameda, the City of Oakland, East Bay Mud, all of these municipal agencies all dump our vacant lands and parcels into one database so it can all be searchable. So we can start programming those empty spaces to address not just homelessness and permanently supportive housing and getting budgets together to program those spaces, but so we can also create programs for first-time home buyers and workforce housing, artist housing, so we can create those lower barrier to entry, low cost, affordable units for all people that actually need them. If I talked to one of the members of the Board of Supervisors that said money should not be an issue for us dealing with our homelessness crisis. And I said, well, say less. Say less, because I got a plan and a proposal to address that. And so, I was able to get the database created. Now I just got to get people on board. So I've talked to a few of those agencies already who committed to being a part of that process. Now I'm also working with the county to try to build up that program. Part of it, do we have anyone from HCD here today? Part of that is my proposal for social housing. I put it in a ballot initiative that I passed to develop 13,000 units of affordable housing so we don't have to go to the voters to get authorization. We passed that ballot measure. Thank you for making it not one of the, but the most voted for ballot measures in the election last year. So thank you for that. So now that we have these 13,000 units allocated that we don't have to get authorization for, I'm working on the process to get those units developed. It is more than a notion, please believe me, but I'm working on it feverishly. And those units will address the most needed populations. So that is in the works as well. I do not want to miss my flight. But I will say this is just part one. My staff, especially my chief of staff, Tanya Love, is always pressing me to not add too much to my plate. Folks say I don't show up in community. I'm usually booked from 8 to 9, straight. Sometimes no breaks, like 0 breaks.
Like today.
Sometimes I might get 15 to 30 minutes, but I'm going every single day. Usually 6 days a week. She tries to get me to take off Saturdays and Sundays, but the phone calls don't stop. People's needs don't stop on Saturdays and Sundays. They don't stop at 5 o'clock. So what I'm committing to is a part 2 of this. So I will have detailed answers to everything that was asked, detailed responses. They may not be perfect responses. They may not be what you want, but it's a starting place. It's a starting place. And from that starting place, we will come up with a community solutions to what you all want to see. And you all can do what I do, which is help me make some tough decisions in tough times. And so then I can say, oh, this is something we all decided, right? This is not coming from Councilmember Fife. This is a group collective process, because when I got elected, I said I was going to make it the people's house. And I promise that, and that's what I will continue to do. So if you all will bear with me and please forgive me for having to leave. It is 7:03. I got to get to San Francisco. Y'all know how that traffic is. But we have to fight for what we believe in. That is what you all wanted me to do. That is what I will continue to do. It will not be easy, but I will always need your support. I will always need your support, especially in these times. We are in some trying times, but I am so faithful that if we stay focused on our objectives, we will get where we need to be. I believe that. If I didn't, I would be a fisherman or a basket weaver or something. But I go to work every day knowing that we're going to make some change and we're going to do some things differently. Is that fair? All right. Thank you all for coming out today.
Okay, I just wanted to make a final comment, a couple comments. There were actually 3 or 4 suggestions on traffic safety. So I have them all listed, and what we're going to do is going to see if they are on the Department of Transportation safety list. We'll do that. Second thing, this is not your only opportunity to participate in the budget. There are some key dates that you guys should look out for, right? On May 30th, the whole city council is going to devote a meeting to do a budget study session. That's another opportunity for you to speak to the full council about what your needs are. It's at 1:30 p.m. And I'll probably do another social post with these dates so you guys know, okay? Then June 14th at 4 p.m. is also another special budget meeting. Again, the council is going to be deliberating over the mayor's budget and coming up with their solutions. June 28th is another special budget meeting. And then the final day, final, because nobody will get paid unless it's passed on June 30th. So we still got a month to decide and to discuss and come up with a plan. So stay engaged. If you haven't already, please sign in and maybe leave a little note saying, this was my question, please get back to me. That will be helpful to us, okay? Thank you guys so much for using your Friday night to come to church and talk about the budget. Y'all are awesome.
Thank you, Bishop Random. Appreciate you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
You tell them the ones that are parked in front, the front door is unlocked.
Okay, those who are parked in front, the front door is unlocked. If you want to go that way. Okay. Up front. Okay.